Welcome to week number 7 of the certification challenge. I am excited about what we're going to talk about today because this is really an important subject, and it's something that can prevent a lot of people from even wanting to take the test in the first place. Now, again, as we've talked about, getting certified is absolutely critical to your career. Can you have a great career without getting certified? 100%. But certification proves to people who don't know how to vet you that you are somebody who knows what they're talking about. They know that 100%. And thus, we are excited to help you in this endeavor. And we're going to talk about this major uh, topic of preventing failure here. So, let's get started. Welcome to this conversation. Looks like I see a couple of you here, repertoires, and Tyler. Good to see you here. Come on in. If there's other people as you are coming in, make sure to drop drop something in the comments. I'm trying to think what we should talk about, what I should ask you all to talk about. I guess, again, continuing our train of thought on study. How is your study going? I regularly continue to talk to people, and the study really is not happening that much. And I want to see this study happening. It has to happen. And that's what we're going to talk about here in this conversation here today. I will say I did notice that it might be a discrepancy with the title versus what I have prepared for today, which was interesting. I'm not sure exactly how I got that, but looks like I somehow swapped around titles of my talks. So today we'll just change this up a little bit. So we're going to talk about ensuring success in your certification, and ultimately a lot of that is your preparation. Next week we're going to talk about the questions to expect on the test. So there will be a slight change on the topic, but still highly relevant, and we're just going to swap weeks. So welcome, Niels. Good to see you, Rob. And yeah, it is wonderful to see all of you in here. We are going to be getting started. As always, I like to ask if you've had your morning coffee here today. Yes, and hopefully you are crushing it here in your preparations for working to get Magento certified, or honestly, whatever certification you're looking to get. What we're going to talk about today is relevant to Magento certifications, Adobe Commerce, but it covers a whole bunch more than that. And so I want to see every one of you successful. Good. Okay. Repertoire said manage to get 30 minutes to study this. Good. And so hopefully this is on a consistent basis. That's what I'm especially, 30 minutes a day. Fantastic. Repertoire, let me just put this up here. You are an example to all of the rest of us here because you are doing this in a consistent basis. I'm going to keep hammering this. Consistency is nothing short of the key for success. If you can be consistent, you will be successful. This is what it takes. We cannot, and here's the problem. We as humans we're excited about something. I say we as humans, I think I have a special gifting of this. I can be very excited about something, and then my attention span kind of falls off. And it's hard to just keep grinding through this. As an example here, I have hey Alice, good to see you in here. I have a course that we're finalizing. It's about merchandising on Adobe Commerce, and it's all about front end, how to use the admin area. It's not about coding or even really much to do with business practitioners. It's strictly for like content administrators, e-commerce managers, that sort of thing. And that's been a tough pull for me because I did it kind of in a sprint, did it over a few week time. And there's been just several aspects of this course that's just taken what seemed like forever. And I'm like, do I even really need this? The answer is, maybe I don't. But at the end of the day, it just takes this perseverance and this consistency to get this pulled through. And I hope and I wish that for every one of you. Be consistent. So without beating a dead horse, as you've probably already thinking that I am, come on, Joseph, just cut it out. Let's get on to the real meat. I get it. Make sure you still have signed up for this the challenge. swiftauto.com/challenge. Once you sign up, then you can start submitting scores to us, your scores. And I'm excited to start to see what you all are going to achieve with your certification efforts. Quickly, the dates we have coming up here, last meetup here is April 13th. I have a calendar link on that certification challenge page that specifically lays out all of these links, everything. It's all right there. So make sure that you get that. May 31st, take your test by May 31st, and then June 8th, we're going to have our award ceremony. So we're focusing on that. So today we're going to talk about why people fail. And I think it actually works out better to talk about why people fail today as opposed to next week or 2 weeks from now, because I want you to look at your preparation process in light of what I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the reasons for failure. And I've seen a lot of people fail. I've been doing this since 2018. By my estimates, helped almost 10,000 people get certified. And in that, I've seen a lot of people fail. And these are the reasons that I have boiled down that I see people fail. And I want to present these to you to avoid you running into the same discouraging thing or same discouraging event. That said, I want to make it very clear. Failure is an event. It is not a person. Zig Ziglar, a great salesperson, did a lot of training for sales. I've listened to some of his material and know this is not a sales talk, but that's what he coined that phrase. Failure is an event. It is not a person. If you fail a test, you have to remember you have a golden opportunity in front of you. Look at it this way. You just failed this test, but you just saw 60, 80, 90 questions on this test. That's valuable. You know the exact style. You know how they're written. You now know what material they're covering. You know what was like super difficult for you. You didn't really know the answers to these questions. There's a lot of guessing on some of these questions. You know how long roughly it took you per question. This test has gone from unknown category to a known status for you. That is actually a very good thing. Just because you got a 55% and you were hoping for a 62%, that's less relevant. Now, on the second try, that becomes a little more discouraging. I will absolutely agree. But for this first one, view this first one as a practice test, regardless of whether you think you're going to ace it or it's going to be a little iffy. This first one attempt is your practice test. If you pass it, sweet, that's awesome. And in fact, my strategy sometimes in the past has been to just study maybe a day or two and go take the test and see really where I'm at. Obviously, that costs $250 somewhere in there. Those of you in India, half that, but it costs some extra, but at least it kind of sets the tempo for how I'm going to study. Like I feel like there's some of these areas that are just I didn't know the answers at all. And obviously, if you fail it after 2 times, there's like a 14-day waiting period. So you have to keep that in mind. But the idea is if you do fail, and we're talking about failure first, and then I'm going to talk about how to prevent failure. But if you do fail, what the next step you do the next day, maybe take a 6-hour break from your studying, but the next day get back in that study. One of the greatest failures I've seen after failing a test is people just get discouraged. They're like, oh shoot, I can't take these tests. Like this just sucks. Like I'm a failure. I'm literally a failure as a person. Well, I already addressed that. You're not. But then they take a 4-week break or a 2-month break or a year break. I failed the test last year. No, this is your opportunity to get back in and take that test. Just keep studying, keep up the momentum. Yes, it might have felt like a little setback, but keep that momentum going and you'll pass. Almost guaranteed you'll pass. I literally see it every single time on the second try for sure. First try, I would guess about 50 to 75% get it on the first try. Second time, almost guaranteed. Now, again, there are a few that don't get it on the second try. And what I would say in that case is you're probably trying for too hard of a test. You're probably going for the expert test and you should be on the professional test. I have seen very few people fail professional on the first try. It's happened, but it's very few. Expert is usually where that first try, second try usually comes in. If you get up to a third try Or if you fail on the second try, my suggestion is go back to the professional level. All that to say, you can do it. You are not a failure. So let's now take this talk that I've given and let's back up and say, okay, we are 3 weeks, 4 weeks from you taking your test. And if you have not scheduled your test, please do that today. Just go out and schedule it. It's not hard. And to be honest, I shouldn't say this, but you can go change the date. It's not that difficult. But what is difficult is getting 4 weeks from now and saying, yeah, do I want it? Just not ready. I'm going to put it off another week. Well, that another week happens, and then you put it off another. Yeah, I just can't do it this week. What do I? You know how this goes. I say that because that's me. That is me. And I don't want that to be you. I mean, well, it's something I'm constantly fighting through. And to be honest, I've been pleased. I feel like I've made some progress in this department. But I'll tell you what, there is a project in this house that I started mid last year that is still not finished. Now, it was kind of a death blow when I ordered some cabinet doors and I got the dimensions transposed. You can kind of do that in coding. It's like okay to do it because you just go and type something up. Well, I spent several $100s to get these cabinet doors, and I had the width and height transpose. Whatever. That's just how it works sometimes. Anyways, so let's talk about and break down some of these reasons for failure. First off, like I said, don't procrastinate, but we've talked about that. Let's look at these. I can break it down into what I would consider 2 camps of reasons for failures. Number 1, not being adequately prepared. That's funny. My fonts are not coming through on this. Anyways, or at least one of the fonts on this side. Oh, well. Not being adequately prepared. We're going to talk about what does it take to be adequately prepared. And you might say, Joseph, I can just turn this off right now because why would I? I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about how to prepare and some of the concepts behind this because you're preparing for an event. Much like an athlete would prepare for a competition, there is a series of training that has to happen. You have to get yourself fit and ready for this. And then the second thing is actually taking the test. And we're going to break apart test questions next week and get you 100% ready, prepared to take the test. But the distracting test environment has been in the past one of the greatest challenges that I have encountered in talking to people as far as them achieving the test. And there's a couple of things that we can do to help prepare you for this. Because ultimately, this comes from the idea that once we get under pressure, our brain freezes. And that's, it comes down to this natural human fight or flight response. Our brain freezes and it's like, we can't really think or process this through. We're going to talk about how to overcome that as well. But for the sake of this conversation right now, we're going to look at point 1. And then once we get through point 1, we're going to talk through point 2 here today. Not adequately prepared. I think one of the challenges is we say the practice test, and we look at the practice test as, well, I guess, a practice test. It's kind of like this idea that we can take it and it's like a study supplement, but it's not actually a preparation to take the test. Now, I'm not saying it's not a study supplement because it is, but it really is designed to help you prepare to take the test. One of those ways to not take the practice test seriously is to look at the answers at the end of the practice test. I'm not joking when I say this. In the past, this was about a year ago, we used to have it so you could pay like X number of dollars and you get unlimited number of takes of the test. What we actually had happening was people, and I'm not joking, 150 takes of that practice test. And then they emailed us later and said, well, I mean, I was getting 100% score in the last, 100 takes of this practice test. And I failed. Why was that? And of course, I'd refund their money, which is, it's fine. But I feel more bad for them because here was my product and it seemed to inadequately prepare them. Well, I tried to communicate this on the practice test page, what was really happening was they were memorizing the answers on the practice test. The idea of a practice test is this tests the general idea of each individual subjects of conversation here that will be on the test. And it puts it into a very similar visual format, but it would be cheating, illegal, breaking contracts if I was to copy those questions off the real test. That would be, there are question dumps out there. I will say that. I have no idea whether they're valid or not. I don't buy them. I don't look at them. Because ultimately, if I am simply trying to pass this test and memorize all the questions on the test, I will give the certification a bad name. I will give Adobe a bad name. And worse yet, I will give myself a bad name because I will have put this on my LinkedIn profile. One of my clients is going to see that I am a Adobe Commerce certified expert developer, and then I'm going to have not a clue what I'm doing. That's bad all around. You completely lose trust in this. So the practice test is designed to mimic the real test. And at the end of like our practice test, it gives you a breakdown of each one of your areas of proficiency. So you see that, for example, on the expert test, the admin area is at 46%. You're like, oh crap, I screwed up there. I need to get some more effort on that. So then you take this information from the practice test, this assessment, and you go back and you study in the study guide. In maybe you've purchased one of our courses, and you're looking at this section as far as what does it take in order to become a true expert on the admin area. That is what this practice test is for. It is an assessment of your readiness, and it is much less these questions are on the same test. I mean, granted, some of these topics are very narrow. There's not much to ask questions about. So the questions could seem similar in some areas just because there's not much to test. But at the end of the day, a practice test is not designed to be a question dump from the real exam. Question dumps are awful. They really are. They're really bad. And ultimately, the other problem is you stake a lot on a question dump. I'll just say this. Because if you get that, memorize it, what happens if the test has been since updated? Then the question dump is out of date and you'll fail it that way. So it's kind of a high risk maneuver, and it's even higher risk when you think about the lost trust that people will have in you when it comes to taking this test. All right, cut a couple questions here. Took a bunch of practice tests. Well, okay. Well, I guess it could work in some cases. So that's funny. All right, Lucas, I see. It says we back in business. So I don't know if that means something happened to the live stream or something, but hopefully not. All right, continuing on. Study everything right here. This is absolutely important. Things that seem scary are probably the most important to study yourself. For me, and I'm saying this personally, if I feel like there is something I just don't understand, well, I have to get in it. I have to get in there and understand this. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about what this means as far as how to study everything. And really, your goal is, if you're taking the expert test, you want to become the expert on everything. And that's what it takes. There you go. Maybe Lucas is out of business and now he's back. I hope so. I hope everybody's back in business here. And actually, one thought I just had, repertoires, on your comment. He passed the expert test after taking a bunch of practice tests. There was my guess is your coworker was already going to pass the expert test, and this just helped identify a couple of areas that were maybe a little weak. That would be my guess. All right. One hiccup that has been recently thrown into the certification lineup here is the cloud exams. So Adobe now has professional and expert, and it says with cloud add-on. Now, the thing that I would say is, where is the one without the cloud add-on? No, it doesn't work like that. It's basically you either get certified with cloud add-on or you don't get certified. So go figure. At the end of the day, though, cloud is definitely an important part. In fact, it accounts for, on the professional and expert developer test, it accounts for about 25 to 30% of the questions on the test. In other words, you cannot go in there expecting to get certified without cloud knowledge. It's not going to happen. And so I'm really pleased that we are like the only one, just because we're an agency, because we do have cloud sandbox information and all that and cloud expertise on our team. We have pulled together this cloud information, and it's part of our professional and expert level courses. If you want to get certified, you literally have to have cloud knowledge, and thus that's what it takes. So be prepared. Cloud is on these tests. We can't ignore it anymore. Whether or not we agree with Adobe's decision on this, that's irrelevant. If we're going to get certified, we have to have cloud knowledge now. Sorry, it is what it is. It's Adobe's business, their decisions, their choices, and the rest of us have to live with that. If it was our business, we can make the decisions we want. But again, Adobe is a business. They have to make money. This was a strategic decision on their part. And so it is what it is. One of my favorite sayings ever. It is what it is. Hear it in songs and everything. It's just like, yeah, it is what it is. There's not much you can do about it. Continuing on here. We want to study with purpose. So that means leaving no stone unturned. And one of the big challenges with our study guides, and I think our courses really do help overcome this, is it's easy just to go read it. Read a study guide, or honestly, the same problem actually can happen with the course. It's just a little more practical, and they kind of force you into more doing this coursework. It's easy to read something. Just read a book. Oh, I'm reading a boring book. I mean, I'll give it that. It's definitely boring. You go Arpatorus. That is right. It is what it is for what it is. That's right. Yep. I'll put this up there for just a second. That's good. So we have to leave no stone unturned. And what I think is absolutely critical is nothing. What is critical is that we get into the code. For some reason, in our study, getting into the code seems daunting. Now, it comes back to having and I think that part of the problem is how difficult it has historically been to set up your own development environment. Good news is, so we recommend, and we have massively supported this project called Warden, and we have a fork of our own called Den. We're trying to figure out Den, Warden, like what's going on there. But at the end of the day, this is compatible with M1 Max. It's lightning fast, super easy to set up. You literally have, it's probably 15 minutes. Maybe I'm being a little generous there, but 15 to 30 minutes to get a development environment set up with Adobe with Adobe Commerce, or actually Adobe Magento open source. And if you have the keys, it's very easy to get enterprise or commerce going. Just do it. Just do that. And this should be the foundation for all of your efforts. There's getting started guides there's a getting started guide with Warden as well as Den. Just dive in, get this environment going. Then if you have PHP Storm, all you have to do is Xdebug starts up really easy. Xdebug port 9003, and just start stepping through code. Set up a scenario of placing an order. Figure out how this order is placed. Find the URL for this for the API that action that I think is set payment information. Doesn't make sense, but I think it's set payment information. And if I remember correctly, go find that word that's executed in the code, drop a breakpoint there, run back through the checkout, hit place order, step through that line by line. It's like, this takes a lot of effort. Of course it does. But you know what I tell people, and I said this at the beginning of our certification meetups, the amount of knowledge you're going to gain is 90% of the value to you. That 10% is kind of like the icing on top of the cake, or the whipped cream on top of a milkshake. Milkshake from Shake Shack. Yeah, that's some good stuff there. So that's literally what it takes. And and Rob, big fan of Den. Super simple and fast. Absolutely, that's what I use. It's so fast to set up a new environment. We're actually coming up with a new course here coming up, but part of that new course is how to get started on Den. And literally yesterday, I ran through that process. I mean, I don't think 15 minutes was, I think 15 minutes was actually generous. It took probably less than that, 10 minutes. There you go, Lucas. Yes, Shake Shack. I just had one of those a couple weeks ago. I don't think we have any of those here in Kansas City, but those shakes are the best shakes I have ever had in my life. I don't know what they put in there, and I probably don't want to know what they put in there, but those are good. Yes, Xdebug. So step line by line through this, and you will be successful. When I say successful, you will become this expert, just like what I'm talking about here. Deep dive, then zoom out. One of the biggest problems with Xdebug, I will say, is it's our tendency to get tunnel vision. We dive deep into this rabbit hole, but then the problem is pulling out of this rabbit hole and understanding what we just went through. deep dive, then zoom out. So ideally, you're going to write notes as you go through this process, and you'll notice that we take that same strategy in our courses. There are some deep dives, and some of them can seem ridiculously boring, and I try to shorten them up if possible. But it's a matter of mastering these concepts. Remember, Magento has over 8 million lines of code. And as an expert developer or a master architect, that's hard to grok enough of that to be able to pass an exam. Getting in there and understanding this with Xdebug is one very good process. Now, the other aspect of this would be to build out a module. And again, we do that in our courses as well. Build out that module, get in there and understand what does it take to do this or that? How can I modify the order workflow? What does it take to create a new customer attribute? It seems kind of basic, but create a new customer attribute and walk through the code to actually enact that. You're going to find some interesting information. EAV attribute table. What is it? The EAV entity type, which has a column in there that links to the customer EAV attribute table, etc. So if you are on the developer side, this is really important. Now, for you business practitioners, people those of you that are not developers but are still looking to take that certification, that is it's a little bit harder to be practical, but because again, on that test, there's digital marketing that's discussed on there. There's some security concepts. Unfortunately, there is API. And so one little suggestion is I highly recommend you read the API developer documentation for Magento. That's going to literally be what you need in order to pass those sections of the test. We talk about that stuff in the course as well, but if you don't have the course, get in through to the Magento admin. Remember everything in store, everything within reason, and store configuration. Place orders, configure one. What do they call it? One-click checkout. Configure that. Configure in-store pickup. Understand how scoping works. What is generally available at each scope level? We kind of talked about that a week or two ago. So all of this is really important to actually getting in. Make it practical, make it your own. And that's one reason Magento says, or Adobe Commerce in this case, says that you need 6 to 12 months or 1 to 2 years or 2 to 3 years or more of experience. Well, if you have a rounded knowledge of all of this, then you probably that'll be plenty enough for you. You're probably going to pick up these little wins here and there, and you're going to naturally have that. But for most of you are ambitious. You may not have that level of time on the clock, or you feel like you've been siloed and you don't have the broad enough experience. Well, that's where that studying comes in. So remember, take that practice test first. It's going to give you your core competencies and weaknesses. Focus on the weaknesses, but keep a little focus on the competencies, because it's easy to boost up your weaknesses. So you get them up here, and during that time, those core competencies kind of fall a little bit, and that gap can actually mean you fail the test right there. So we don't want that to happen either. Another thing, take notes, and notes are absolutely critical. These are the things that stand out to you as you are looking to pass the test. Don't just, again, read the study guide and say, I'm going to go pass the test now. That's not going to happen. Instead, what you need is to take these notes, boil them down into a very concise manner, because the day before the test, you can then go review these notes, or the day of the test, not of course during the test, but this is going to jog your memory. It's going to bring these aha moments to the forefront, and you're like, I can do that. I remember this. And then you're going to have those questions, and it's going to make it a little easier for you to remember those. Here is something also funny that I like to mention to my friends here in our conversations. Challenge everything that you read or hear. So if you just heard me give you technical advice, or Navar or Miha in our study groups, challenge that mentally. I mean, be nice about it, but say, okay, but is that correct? Is this right? So write it down and later go back and step through and prove this to be either correct or incorrect. You're not taking somebody's word for this. What you're doing is you are baking this in to your brain as something you have personally investigated yourself. It is not possible for me to transfer my personal experience to you. The closest thing I can do is come through training, whether that's, watching videos or what I write, or I guess those are the two best ways. But it still is like here, but what you have to do is take it to here in your head. It's close, but it's not there. And so you have to go gain this experience for yourself. And I'm going to say something here personal that I have been fighting through myself as far as when it comes to, I'm not actually studying this year to take a test, but this is very important in some other areas. I believe our number one enemy to achieving success in perhaps maybe more areas in our life than just getting certified. And it could be that our number one enemy to achieving success in general could be notifications. In other words, our phone. This is something I'm on a journey on myself. I am by no means there. I wish I could say I was there. But my phone, I have identified as a massive enemy. It's like a Trojan horse. It's great to use. It seems convenient. But to be really frank, I have an addiction to my phone. I'm going to talk a whole bunch more about that in other videos. But I literally have an addiction to it. And it's kind of can be like a consoling thing. Like if I'm standing in line somewhere, I'm bored, just pull out of my pocket and check it. Notifications, though, as I am studying, I'm in the groove, I'm looking, I'm reading this, whatever, and I have a notification pop up like, oh, shoot, what is this? Oh, okay, it was nothing. And then I go back to my study again. Notifications take away our attentive energy, and thus they might be one of the biggest, I say the biggest, reasons that we would actually not be successful. And yet it is the easiest thing to get rid of this. That's what I suggest you do. Just think about that. It's just a thought. It's something that I am on my personal journey in this department. Very raw, very personal for me right now. And I want to do better in this. I feel like I can be better as a developer, as a solution architect, as owner of Swift Otter, as a husband, as a father, if I reduce this set of distractions. And this is immediately available as a consistent distraction in my life. So keep focusing, or just think about that. Give it some thought. The other thing is our projects. And some of this comes back to our management structure. I'm not throwing shade at our managers or our project managers or our bosses or whoever part of the that chain it is. But at the end of the day, they do have some culpability here. I'm not going to say complete culpability for us not being able to get our test scheduled and studied for, because ultimately we probably work for them for 8 hours a day, and which leaves if we sleep for 8 hours, that would be another 8 hours of our day that we could spend studying. Now, I know we have family and responsibilities and social life and all that stuff that happens in those other 8 hours. So it's not like it's just like a fair comparison, but we probably can squeeze 15 minutes out of our day or 30 minutes out of our day, like Repertoires is doing. We can squeeze that out of our day. So do it. So even if your company is not giving you the time, do it yourself. And I would suggest if you do it yourself, try to pay for it yourself, because that gives complete autonomy from your company. Then if you do get certified and you have headhunters approach you, say, hey, we wanted you to work for this another company and you're going to make more money or whatever, then it has nothing to do with you owing an investment back to your company. If your company gives you time on the clock to study and then even pays for your certification, you owe this investment back to them. My opinion, you should give them 6 months to a year extra of your time. If they're not going to contribute to this, or if they don't, they say they contribute to it, but they don't actually end up contributing to it because they have too much of a workload on your plate, study on your own time, get certified, and then you have free reign if you want to consider switching jobs. repertoire sets a very Oh, these are great suggestions, guys. Wow. Yeah, I love this. Turn off the sound and vibration. Check the swipe the. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Niels, though, I gotta say, you took the cake on this one. This is good. Call your money. Oh yes, that's right. That's good. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, at least you have a mother who wants to call you and checks in. That's good too. That's always a blessing. All right. The final thing here is I want to quickly touch on, and there's not a huge amount to talk about here, is a distracting test environment or the pressure that comes when we find ourselves with 90 minutes, 60 questions. How do we do this? All right. So I think the practice test is your best key in this case. Our practice tests have a timer on them. So, and I think pretty much across the board, every Adobe exam has 1.5 minutes per question, 90 seconds. So you can do the math on the practice test and hold yourself to that. We're going to talk about specific test taking strategies that will help you best utilize those 90 seconds. But use the practice test to ensure that you can grok and answer a question in less than 90 seconds. I would say if you're getting into the 90 second on average, then there's other problems. One thing that I have recommended in the past, it could be that your English reading comprehension needs to be improved. It might not even be a Magento thing. And this is not a bad thing at all. What I tell people anytime I talk to somebody who's speaking English and they natively speak another language, I always tell them that your Hindi or your English is way better than my Hindi, or your English is way better than my Spanish. I guess I know a little Spanish, but regardless, like it's impressive that you already can speak English that well. So don't be discouraged, but you might want to boost your the reading comprehension just a little bit, and read news sites, read English books, whatever. Like there's some strategies on that side. Really, I would say you're shooting for being able to answer most questions around the 45-second mark. That's what I would recommend shooting for. The other thing is if you take the test here on your computer. When I take my tests, I am literally sitting right over here. Now, because I have multiple monitors here, and they're kind of picky as far as they don't want to make sure you're cheating. They want to make sure you're not cheating. I set up a little desk over right here next to me, so the computer can, so the webcam on my computer can see everything. And sometimes they'll ask you to move your computer around just to show that you haven't snuck somebody in, or there's not a camera in the room. So I just have it sitting over there, just my laptop. I take it on my laptop. I'm sitting in my favorite chair, this chair that I sit in all day, every day. It's in my same office environment. It's comfortable. I know what I'm doing. It's easy. So that's another thing that I have found really helps. And a lot of this comes down to the mind games. If we go into this saying, "Oh, wow, this is 90 minutes is not a lot. I'm going to be stressed and all that stuff," then yeah, you're probably going to be stressed. But if you can go into this saying, "Look, I've done my preparation. I feel comfortable with these questions. I'm okay. Even if I fail the test, it's okay." Looking at this not being like this pivotal moment in your career, and it's just like one step in the journey. It's fine. Okay, is there a little higher pressure? Of course there's a little higher pressure. But your goal is just to reduce that pressure that you are levying or applying on yourself. If you fail, oh, shoot, that was a practice test. It wasn't exactly a practice test, but for your purposes of study, that's all it was. Just a practice test. Not a big deal. So focus on that. Excuse me. And I think that will help quite a little. As we wrap it up for today, I want to thank all of you for joining us. I am excited to see the progress that you all are making in your endeavors. Lucas, I see that you asked a question. How much time would you recommend for learning? I would say half an hour a day is a very reasonable amount. Perhaps you could kick in 15 minutes yourself and see if your employer can kick in 15 minutes. Biggest thing is to make sure it happens. Ideally, this is before you go to work, as opposed to once you're to work. And of course, you might get pulled away for other things. Half an hour, I feel like, is very manageable. When you start going over that, I feel like it can start getting a little perhaps tedious. And as soon as it starts getting tedious, we lose the excitement over learning, and it's easy to start putting roadblocks which would prevent us from doing it another day. Ultimately, I very much advise against the sprint style of learning, i.e., spending 4 hours on a Saturday. And instead, if we can spread that out through the week, that is much likely to be more successful. All right, with that, I want to say great work to every one of you. Thank you for participating in this. I am excited to see you all as you invest in your career, as you become more proficient, as you ultimately achieve these certifications. I am here to walk alongside you in that process. And our entire Slack channel, Slack community is also there and available to walk alongside you in this process. swiftauto.com/Slack. Kind of easy to remember, but go there, join the Slack community, participate, ask your questions. They'll get answered. And I'm really excited to see the progress that people make in this. So, now we're having a competition for getting our comments on the screen. That's funny. Hey, you write good comments, you can get them on the screen. What can I say? You know, it's how it works. So yes, let's keep those dopamine hits coming all the way through this. But you know what the best dopamine hit is, and I will close with this: getting that certification, seeing that pass mark at the end of your certification. That's like worth seeing 100 comments here right on this very screen right here. Get your certification as a pass score. That's like 1,000 dopamine hits right there. I'm sure it's like one of, I'm sure I've never tried this, but it has to rival taking some really good drugs. Just seeing that pass score up there. That's so good. It's like the taste of victory right there. And you know what? It's so close for every one of you. So keep up the great work. You got it. And we will see you here in 2 more weeks. So keep that studying and keep me posted as far as your status there.